But I always thought cotton tote bags were the best option. I got really surprised to see what their carbon footprint was.
All my dreams are coming, all my dreams are humming, all my dreams are coming true.
Hello lovely humans, my name is Sarah. I make foods that I've never attempted before to share those recipes with you all, and I try fun food challenges. Now today, I thought we'd do something a little different, that we'd sit down. So grab a seat, grab some snacks, doing what I like to call sustainable swap Saturdays. I was just on YouTube a couple days ago, and this video on my feed came up talking about how plastic bags are more sustainable than paper bags. The whole idea that plastic bags are more sustainable or have a less carbon footprint than paper bags was really interesting to me because I'd never heard that before. And I became really interested in finding out what the best sustainable option was for grocery bags when you go grocery shopping. And I wanted to go a little step further and find out for myself if that was really true. So we're going to be comparing disposable versus reusable bags. Specifically with the disposable bags, we'll be covering topics of plastic bags and paper bags, and then for reusable, I'm going to be talking specifically about plastic bags. There's little plastic reusable bags that you can get at grocery stores. They have like a thick plastic lining, and then also cotton tote bags, which I have a couple of. In covering these 4 different options, we are going to also be discussing 3 different categories to define whether these items are actually sustainable or not. We'll be looking at the energy used to make each bag and the raw materials needed to create that bag. The second category that we'll be judging the bags on is the potential to be reused. So this is just looking at the lifetime of the bag and how much that bag can actually reasonably be reused before it just falls apart or has to be scrapped or recycled, etc. The third category we're going to be looking at is the pollution of the bag. This has to do with the life cycle of that item, so where it begins and how it ends up. We'll also be looking at the emissions of that disposal, so at the end of its life cycle what happens and how much energy it takes to dispose of that item, and also the cost of recycling bags that can be recycled. We'll also be looking at the impact of human health and on the environment that that bag has. The reason I decided to add this aspect of the effect of human health and on the environment that the bag has is because it has to do with the life cycle. Once that item is done being used, it's going to affect the world around it, obviously, right? I'm going to be narrowing down the best options so you know which bag is the best for you to use personally. Let's first talk about the carbon footprint of each of these different types of bags. The energy it takes to make plastic bags comes to 1.3 kilograms per 100 plastic bags. The carbon footprint of a paper bag comes to 5.5 kilograms per 100 paper bags. So it's quite a hefty difference from plastic bags, just looking at carbon footprint. For the polypropylene reusable bags, so the thick plastic ones that you see at the store, that came out to 21.8 kilograms per 100 bags, which again we see is a significant rise. But these are reusable bags, so ideally these bags would be used multiple times after being created. According to this article, the study estimated that a cotton tote bag's total carbon footprint was 598.6 pounds of CO2. This compared to 3.48 pounds of CO2 for a standard plastic bag. This means that you would need to use the tote bag 172 times for every one time you used a plastic bag. 598.6 pounds to kilograms is 271 kilograms. Holy crap. If we're just looking at the disposable bag options, we have a plastic bag that takes much less carbon footprint than a paper bag, which emits 51% more global warming gases, creates 50 times more water pollution, and uses 4 times the raw material that a plastic bag takes. It also consumes 2 times the amount of energy it takes to make a plastic bag. That's insane. I always thought the paper bags were the better option because it just made more sense. Paper bags can compost, but it's crazy that if we're just looking at carbon footprint, not anything else, just carbon footprint, the plastic bag has less carbon footprint per bag. But if we're looking at raw materials, the plastic is made from ethylene, which is a gas petroleum product, which, as I'm sure you know, is not exactly the most sustainable thing. Paper bags come from paper pulp, which is then pressed into the bag. The propylene reusable bags are made from a synthetic propylene material, and cotton bags are just cotton fiber spun into fabric and then made and sewn into those bags. Next, let's look at the potential for each type of bag to be reused. The lifetime of a plastic bag, if we're looking at 100 plastic bags that are reused at least once, then those 100 plastic bags come to 65/10 of a kilogram for those 100 plastic bags. We look at paper bags, which ideally would be reused 5 times, that comes to 1.1 kilograms of CO2 per 100 bags. Propylene reusable bags, 21.8 kilograms per 100 bags. But if they are reused 20 times, this is, I feel like it's reused 20 times is kind of undercutting these, because I have quite a few that I've had for many years that are still holding up strong. So this is a little bit of an undercut, but let's just assume that this bag lasts you 20 times. When that bag is reused 20 times, it comes to 1.09 kilograms per 100 propylene reusable bags. If we're looking at cotton tote bags, when those 100 cotton tote bags are reused 300 times, it comes to 0.9 kilograms per 100 bags. So if those items were made from recycled material, I imagine that they would be a little bit less CO2, but I couldn't find any information on this, unfortunately. Thirdly, we're going to be looking at the pollution of each of these types of bags. The life cycle of a plastic bag, which essentially are just chains of ethylene molecules. Those molecules are then pressed into pellets. Those pellets are shipped to a manufacturer who will then melt those pellets, create long sheets, and each of those sheets are then cut into the desired shape that is needed for that plastic bag, and then eventually aligned and binded together with machinery. Paper bags, in most cases, in my research, I found that a lot of paper bags are actually mostly recycled. That recycled paper is gathered and processed in a recycling paper mill, which is then put through many different processes to essentially be pressed into paper, and to create long sheets of paper which are then cut and then folded and glued into the paper bags. Propylene reusable bags, it gets a little more complicated. I'm just going to read this exactly from my research. Quote, first, the monomer propylene is extracted from crude oil in gas form, and then monomer is then subjected to a process called chain growth polymerization to create the polymer polypropylene. Wow, that's a mouthful. Once a large number of propylene monomers is strung together, a solid plastic material is then formed. We'll take these tiny plastic pellets, melt them at a really high temperature to create this syrup-like substance, which will then be spun to create the fibers. Process of cotton, the cotton that is taken from the plant, then processed to be woven to create the fibers that is ultimately used to create the cloth. Then that cloth is cut and sewn to create the tote bags. The emissions of disposal and the cost of recycling. This is what frustrated me the most. Person who has been sold into this idea that paper bags are so much better than plastic, and to a point, yes, they are, because it can naturally compost, right? Well, here's the problem. The problem is that a lot of paper bags end up not making it to the recycler center, or if they do, it takes a ton of energy and a ton of water to recycle these bags back into into usable material. A lot of times people just throw these bags away, and you would think that they would compost in a landfill, but because landfills are so freaking compact, they have not enough oxygen and not enough sun to actually compost. So it ends up becoming a methane bomb. Here's some fun facts. Paper bags generate 70% more air pollutants than plastic. They generate 50 times more water pollutants than plastic. It takes 91% less energy to recycle a plastic bag than it does a paper bag. Paper bags are very thick, and so shipping them costs more, and therefore you're going to use more fuel to ship all of the paper bags. And plastic doesn't get much better. According to the EPA, 9.1% of plastic material generated in the U.S. municipal solid waste stream was recycled in 2015. 9.1%. Another 15.5% was combusted for energy, while 75.4% was sent to landfills. 75%! According to EPA reports, 2.1 million tons of plastic waste was recycled in 2008. Less than 7%. But good news is that paper bags are actually recycled at a higher rate than plastic bags. Only 13.3% of plastic packaging was recycled. It costs approximately $4,000 to recycle 1 ton of plastic bags. Producing plastic products from recycled plastics reduces energy consumption by 66%. If you're going to be using plastic material, use recycled plastic material. So you're probably thinking, Sarah, you're telling me that I should just have plastic because it's just a better option. I'm not saying that. I'm saying neither is the good option. It's the fact that it's disposable. It's the fact that it's not reused. So if you're going to choose any bag, if you're going to choose a plastic bag or a paper bag, reuse it. Reuse it as many times as you can before recycling it or disposing of it safely. For propylene reusable bags, because they often can be used to house things like fertilizer or any kind of dangerous chemicals, they do have to be decontaminated before they can actually be recycled, so that takes quite a bit of energy to do so. Then they're reground, remelted, and created back into pellets. But it doesn't end there. It's not all recycled. There has to be a little bit of raw material going into it to actually create a strong bond. The good news is that a lot of things can be manufactured from these recycled plastic pellets over and over. Not forever, just many times, which makes it a little bit of a more eco-friendly option. And while it does provide for a great outlet of recycling plastic, unfortunately those little tiny plastic pellets are gonna go into the water, so that's a downside. If we're just looking at virgin cotton, it gets real nasty real quickly. Conventional cotton production accounts for 1/6 of all pesticides used globally, impacting farmers and local communities with harmful chemicals, a claim that is bolstered by figures from the World Health Organization, which shows that in developing countries, approximately 20,000 individuals die of cancer and suffer miscarriages as a result of chemicals sprayed on conventional cotton. But with recycled cotton, there's been a really cool process that's been up and coming. It's a company called Renewcell, and what their team is doing is taking this used cotton, grinding it up into a pulp, kind of like how paper is used to be created into a pulp. They add a bunch of water into it, and all the dye essentially washes out, and then they're left with this white, mush, toilet paper-like consistency of cotton. Then it's formed into sheets and dried. Before this new process, all of the recycled cotton that actually did get recycled, which was chopped up into bits and had really short fibers, so they could only be reused once to be created into new material. They also had very limited uses. With this new process that Renewcell has created, they estimate that they can save about the equivalent of 2 kilograms of CO2 emissions for each kilo of recycled fabric it produces. When compared with cotton, the resulting fiber has a 20% lower production cost, a 30 to 40% more efficient dye uptake than any other fiber, uses only 50 liters of water to manufacture a kilogram versus 1,200 liters per kilogram of cotton, and is close to carbon neutral. Needless to say, I was really kind of shocked when I found out all this information. I didn't realize how much water... I mean, I knew that cotton wasn't exactly the best plant. I knew that. I didn't know that it took 10,000 to 20,000 gallons of water to make jeans. I didn't know that it take 3,000 gallons to make a t-shirt. That's insane. I'm gonna narrow down as to what I would choose as the best option and why, based on all this research that I did. My best choice overall that I would do is to use recycled materials made into reusable bags. Why? Well, one, the recycled materials takes way less CO2 because it's not a raw material, and that recycled material is likely going to take less water. It's also going to use less chemicals, so it just makes more sense to get a recycled material made into a reusable bag. When it comes down to, if you have to get disposable, choose a bag that you're going to reuse as many times as you can. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to crunch that subscribe button and ring that dinner bell to get notifications on new videos that I put out every Wednesday and Saturday. If you want to see more videos like this, where I'm just talking and giving you research information on sustainable swaps and sustainable options, then go ahead and give me a comment below and let me know what you want to see next. I have a lot of different subjects that I really want to cover. I want to give a personal shout out to Jared, who commented on my panini video, where they suggested that I should panini a chicken nugget, which I think is an excellent idea. Thank you so much for supporting me on my channel and engaging with me. I love talking with people and seeing what they're thinking. It gives me good feedback so I know how I'm doing. If you want to be mentioned in my next notification shout out, go ahead and click that subscribe button and comment down below answering today's question, and you might be featured. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Just like a prisoner when his sentence ends, all my dreams are coming true.